Games to be sold, not told. So we finna keep everybody broke. They say time is money. They say money talk. I ain't got no time to waste it. You ain't got no time. Out and about, out chasing paper. The streets of my house and the house always wins like Vegas. Never down for the count. Second win, second nature. Found mine. Never had my hands out. Fuck favors. By design, everything tailored. In my youth, it was shell toes, no Chuck Taylors. We choke game, had a game so it's still the same code game, so it's still the same code. We all pay the cost, I mean pay dues. Move with the main state that I can't lose. On the grind, push a hard line with my linemen. Back when I was young, they said it's all about timing. Till it's my time, all the stars are aligning. I'm a diamond in the rough, couple cuts got me shining. This game you cannot cop on consignment. In the field, all we do is execute assignments. The game should be sold, not told. So we finna keep everybody broke. They say time is money, they say money talk. I ain't got no time to waste, you ain't got no time to talk. The game should be sold, not told. So we finna keep everybody broke. They say time is money, they say money talk. I ain't got no time to waste, you ain't got no time to talk.
First, we get into this paper. See, I want it all, plus some UNDERDOG acres, a lot of alcohol, few dad bags of paper. Run this shit like a ship and I'm the sailor. Cold, kinda like it's fresh up out the freezer. Cold, if she ain't talking bread, I don't need her. Soon as I meet her, I'ma fuck her, then I leave her. It's the old Mac needs, treat them all like bottom feeders. Break it down slow for them folks that don't know. I'm a seasoned vet, black belt out the dojo. With a wide range of weapons, so I'm out the holster. Keeping all options open, so many ways that I can fold ya. Told you from the gate, never been about no play. Get it on the go, they never been known for no delay. The game should be sold, not to be told. Keep your mouth shut, don't have to break the mold. Mac needs.
Break the work down, it's fence to move. Push that work out, I distribute. Break the work down, it's fence to move. Push that work out, I just distribute. A young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the foreign or I'm hopping out the Uber. Crew clocking chips opposite of you losers. Can't be broke as a joker, got no sense of humor. Just a young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the foreign or I'm hopping out the Uber. Crew clocking chips opposite of you losers. Can't be broke as a joker, got no sense of humor.
I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. You know I'm the boy, get money's what I'm used to.
Keep it straight from the gate, so I don't confuse ya. I'm a D-boy, need abusive as users. I'ma make noise, shout to my producer. I'm an entertainer, but I ain't here to amuse ya. Yeah, I fuck with shooters and they all fucking users. Come through, wake that ass up like a rooster, hella early in the morning. Early bird gets a worm. Finna get rich for 'em, food for the worms. Cutting cocaine, dropping whole things. It's a cold game, make you run your gold chain. Hungry, but I'm moving in a keto state. For sure, I beat the price on the keys in your state. Catch me running up a tire, fucking up a bag. Make me wonder how long will a good thing last. On my Curtis Mayfield, live a life I can't chill. Push a man, pushing packs, all I do is make squeal. Keep it 100, I'm just numb, yo, I can't feel none of these suckers when they say they real. Stacking Uber cash, I'm an out-of-state supply. Random Uber man here to get away drive. Just a young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the foreign or I'm hopping out the Uber. Crew clocking chips opposite of you losers. Can't be broke as a joker, got no sense of humor. Just a young pack mover, shot to my consumer. Jumping out the...
What is up? Back for the Tuesday night show. A lot of interesting shit happening in the playoffs so far, but what up, Hammer?
Yeah, there's been a lot of interesting stuff about the playoffs this weekend. I'm pretty sure I definitely want to talk about it. I switched up my background for you guys. I just, showing some love
Switched up my background for you guys.
just in case you guys forgot what we've been up to. But yeah, man, it's been entertaining. I want to say outside of the Detroit Rams game, not a lot of good football, like in
Oh,
terms of like game and intrigue and drama, some drama, but outside of that Detroit Rams game, not a lot of close games at all.
oh, I didn't watch the whole thing. The Packers Cowboys.
You should have. Could have saw a real quarterback. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, it got at it was. I mean, I saw that part, and then it got out of hand after the first. After he threw the first few tutties. So at that point, I'm just like, wow, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? I can't watch this garbage.
Were
I
you
mean,
thinking about
Texans
me?
same thing. Texans went crazy. No, I wasn't thinking about you.
That's pretty messed up, but okay, we'll give
Well,
it a slide on that
my
one.
dilemma this week is that Packers play the Niners,
Yep.
right? So number one, Bogey, I don't know if he's out there. My bad. He fucking texted me about trying to be on the show to talk Packers Niners, and I fucking totally forgot to write him back. So I gotta send him the link. But yeah, I mean, do we I don't want the Packers to win, right? I'm a Vikings fan. I don't want the Packers to win, but at the same time, like I would love to see Purdy fuck that shit up.
It's just watching that game last week was a culmination of a lot of feelings, and I actually texted this into the subscriber league chat that when Darnell Savage got that pick six midway through the second quarter or towards the end of that second quarter to put the Packers up 27-0, I literally got on my knees and I almost like had an emotional breakdown just because like I didn't expect this. Like I expected the Packers to play okay, and I expected it to be a close game. I'll be honest. I thought Dallas was the better team going in, right? All things pointed to that Dallas was the better team. They were playing at home, haven't lost there in 15, 16 straight games, whatever the case may be. But for the Packers to come out and play this way is such vindication. As a Packer fan, I've been taking a lot of heat over the last couple of years since obviously Aaron had a pretty bad year last year and Jordan Love got off to a rough start this year. It's such a gratifying feeling that I was the nicest person I've ever been, and I'm a pretty nice person. You know me my whole life. I'm a pretty nice, but I was the nicest person I've ever been over the last 2 to 3 days. It's
I don't know
just
about that. You are quite fucking annoying with that fucking Jordan Love bullshit, but I get it. I understand it. What's good to the chat out there? Daniel, what up? Derek,
oh
Jamie,
man.
Nikki in the building. What up, Nikki? It's been a while. What's goody?
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, yeah. What about them damn cow? Like, what happened to the defense? Like, I mean, what the
Yep.
fuck?
Yep. That was one of the biggest surprises out of everything because listen, the Packers can score. You know what I mean? That offense has reached the point, especially with a healthy Aaron Jones. Like with a healthy Aaron Jones, he unlocks that offense to the heights of which we've seen over the last basically month of the season. So that really surprised me that the Cowboys did not get a single sack on Jordan Love. Not one. So that was more indicative of anything else that went on in that game. There were guys that I saw, I didn't see a stat, but I heard there's a stat out there that pass to Luke Musgrave on the sideline. I don't know if you saw the highlight of it where he was just wide open. That was the most wide open any receiver has been all season in terms of distance from the next defender. Like that was I think the Cowboys defense is the most surprising element of that game. But man, Jordan Love made some throws, man. Like he was making some throws. That throw to Dontavian Wicks on the corner post route towards the back zone, that was a fucking dime, bro.
Listen, I'll give him I'll give him that. Like he does have the ability to make those. I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers, but those Rodgers-esque off
Mm-hmm.
the back leg, kind of off balance, like unorthodox kind of
Yep.
throws. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And especially now in the NFL, like we see guys are a lot more successful. Like, I mean, those D-line are big, right? You've got to throw at angles and shit nowadays. You got to
Sidearm. Yeah.
drop the arm, sidearm, like, and now you've got, guys throwing off the back foot, like,
Yep.
so it's, he did make some good throws, for sure. So, I mean, his value obviously in Dynasty has skyrocketed. I mean, and it's really hard to rank him. Like it was really hard to do my quarterback rankings. The tiers are pretty clear, at least for me, like the difference in the tiers. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as like, 1, 2, 3, 4, the top
Yeah.
10, top 12, top 15, like that's rough. It's like, where do we put Jordan Love, right? I mean, listen, halfway through the season, we were talking about like, oh, is Jordan Love actually the dude? Like,
Yep.
and then we talked about how we had the good second half schedule and he fucking killed it. And now he's killing it in the playoffs. So,
I
his
think
value is skyrocketing.
I think to solidify his spot as a top 10 guy, he's like right on that fringe. I saw you had him at 11, right behind Tua. I kind of
And
think I'd rather have Jordan Love, but
you could,
there's
that's
arguments
fair.
to be made. Yeah.
No, that's
Uh,
fair. For me, at least, it just came down to his weapons. I mean, he did lead the league in passing, and like, he was okay at some parts of the season, and
mm-hmm.
still led the league in passing. Right?
Yeah.
He might have looked shitty in that playoff game, and yes, they didn't win, and maybe some people out there are having questions, but the organization doesn't have questions. Like they're talking
Right.
about they're talking about a contract. Like. They want him there. The coaches love him. So regardless of what we think, I think he's safe there. And other people may not. I don't know how you feel about it, but I think he's pretty safe there.
So the thing for me was, and I actually mentioned this in the chat as well, where, bro, listen, if you can't go in, especially in the AFC, if you can't go on the road to a cold weather city in January, and forget about winning the game, because I didn't think that the Dolphins were going to win that game. He was dreadful. Like like bad. If Tyreek Hill didn't make the adjustment to that deep bomb he threw him on the sideline, his stat line, it would have looked even worse. So, but if you watch the game, like he looked uncomfortable. He looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked like the cold had gotten to him. Now, obviously, he's born in Hawaii, played at Alabama, plays in Miami now. So for me, in regards to Tua, if you can't at least play competent football in that kind of situation on the road in a cold weather stadium in January, I'm going to have some questions about you, like honestly. And to even back up that point even further, I have even more questions about him because he had a chance to take care of business against Buffalo in week 18 to secure a home playoff spot. So for me, the Kansas City game isn't as damaging or as damning as the Buffalo game the week before, because you were at home in Miami in late December in solid conditions to play football. I think it was like mid 60 degrees when they were playing, and you couldn't get the job done. So I can understand what you're saying, but and also too, the contracts, right? Like they're both in a similar situation where, is Tua going to get the contract this offseason? Is Jordan Love going to get the contract this offseason? I think he's pretty much solidified that he is going to get the contract, which that is relative to his value if we're talking about dynasty and, ranking him up there in that top 10 quarterback. I think if he gets the contract somewhere in the 4 or 5 year range, 200 mil, he's around that. He's 10 to me in that area.
That's true, but I would say, like, even if Jordan Love went out there and shit it, like, you kind of still feel confident that he's going to get the contract regardless. Like, so I don't know if we can just take this one playoff game for Tua and just say, like, he's not the guy. Like I said, the organization likes him. What's his name? Didn't Mostert have like 20 something tutties? Like, they ran a lot of tutties in, and he threw what, 29 tutties on the season. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's still a little bit more, that we can get from Tua. Now, what happens in the playoffs? Can he actually win them the Super Bowl? That's a whole nother That's a whole nother conversation and question, which I agree with you. Yes, he's got to go in there and he's got to win. But I think for the most part, it's like, who else you going to get? Like, you have a team to win now, kind of, pretty much. So, I mean, who else are you going to get that's better than Tua? I mean, kind of same thing with, I was saying this to somebody today in one of the chats, like my Viking situation, like with Kirk Cousins, right? For a couple of years, we're like, oh, is Kirk the fucking guy? Like, we need to get somebody else up in there. But
Kirk is significantly older.
But regardless, like when he wasn't even old, like now he's older. But yeah, even the past few years, it's kind of like, okay, can he actually take us to the Super Bowl? Do we need to get somebody else? But then the flip side is who do you go out and get that's actually going to be better? You know what I mean? So,
well, in these situations, because the Vikings don't have, I think the Vikings are at what, 17, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in that range, right? The Miami's going to be in the early 20s, right? So it's one of those situations where I agree with you. I think he is going to be there and he should be there because I think, like you said, he does have the weapons. He has kind of a win now team. But to me, like those last couple of games, they were ahead. They were 3 games ahead of Buffalo with 5 games to go for the division. 3 games ahead with 5 to go. So, and then you couple that with the loss to Buffalo, like I said, in week 18 for the division. And then you couple that with him going on the road to Kansas City. We know what that weather was like. And it's just like, you start, you raise an eyebrow when you see certain things like that. And you're talking about giving a guy $200 million like that, those things matter. You know what I mean? And they're directly connected to fantasy because if Tua is on Miami, we know what he can do. We've seen it, right? So if he's on a different team, a new offense, new weapons, maybe he doesn't have Tyreek Hill, maybe he doesn't have Jalen Waddle, maybe he doesn't have that running game, maybe he doesn't have Mike McDaniels. So it's directly correlated. So I think there's more questions about Tua right now than there is about Jordan Love. And I think that's kind of where it separates me a little bit. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
like I think right now, like the recency bias of the playoff game has changed everything, or all the playoff games, really. I mean, guys are jumping up and down just after one game now in Dynasty as far as like rankings, which is kind of crazy. But it's just a different world we live in today where, that's how people are. You were reacting to the recency. But before this playoff game, there wasn't really much questions about Tua.
But if you
So
take a look at his last 5 games, right? And I'm talking about that 3 games up with 5 games to go. His last 5 games, and then obviously 6 including the playoffs, he was QB 23, QB 23, QB 22, QB 16, QB 24. That's not good. And it started to get cold. Now, he didn't have to play that many away games. He only played 1 away game in December at Baltimore. And they got boat raced in Baltimore. He played pretty well, but they got boat raced in Baltimore. So, listen, I think he's a good quarterback. Do I think he's better than Jordan Love? I don't necessarily think so. I think they're fairly close in the rankings. Like you had them 10, 11, somewhere in that range. I think they're both in that range. Don't get me wrong. But the growth, and not even just because I'm a Packers fan. Like, listen, if Jordan Love was playing in huge, like CJ Stroud, right? CJ Stroud is ahead of Jordan Love and Tua. There's no arguing that. So, but I've seen a steady growth and a steady progression with Jordan Love that leaves no doubt in my mind he should be right at that 10 spot. And I think I'd rather have him than Tua, to be honest with you. Still can't hear you.
bad. I said I got no problem if you want to take Jordan Love over Tua. I mean, they're in the same tier for me, so pick who you want, whoever you want to be more, whoever you want to be more comfortable with. So same thing. They're both right there. Nick, what up, Nick? Have Kelsey, Chig, Font, Henry, and Everett rostered in non-tight end premium. Seems like way too many.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Non-tight end premium. I mean, Everett's could be dropped. Font, I guess, could be dropped. I mean, or just trade him if somebody wants him. Henry, same thing. You need one tight end and one backup tight end. Like that's all you need. I mean, if it's 9 tight end premium, I mean, depending how deep the league is, you might not even need a backup tight end.
Agreed.
You know, just save the extra roster spot when it's like considering between those guys. You know what I mean? Because you could just pick up
Especially
any of those guys when you need.
And especially because you have an every week starter in Kelsey. Like you're not playing any of those guys over Kelsey anyway.
Mhm.
So, you could pretty much drop all those guys. If you want to hang on to one, that's fine. But you don't really need any of those. That's roster clogging right there.
Mm-hmm. Got to make 2 cuts head into the off season. Are you keeping tight ends or lotto running backs like Pierce, Chris Brooks, Prince? Yeah, I'm keeping the running backs. I'm getting rid of the tight ends. We don't
For
know
sure.
which one of the running backs is going to be the one that winds up getting the playing time, what situation is going to occur. So just hold on to those guys, get rid of the tight ends because the running backs, I mean, those could be league winning guys, right? You know,
Mhm.
with injuries that happen in situations that occur. Those tight ends are, I mean, you could find one of
Nope.
those on the waivers. So
For sure.
Kev, what it do, Kev? What up,
Kev,
Kev?
my man.
Song in the building. What up, Song?
There he is. Any of those other games like surprise you? I think Houston scoring 45 against Cleveland kind of Dak it. Well, I think Dak is really good, but not in the playoffs.
Cousins really good right about now. Yeah, well, listen, Kirk was having one of his best seasons ever. I mean,
And we kind of
this
knew he
season.
was going to
So
be awesome. Like he was a really good value because of all those weapons they had.
big
So,
love over Mahomes. Oof, I can't get
all
that
right,
far, but
I'm not going that far either. There are guys I'm definitely taking over Jordan Love, but the dude, he's a dude. Like it's not a question anymore. He's a dude. He's going to be there. And just really quick, bro, Jordan Love didn't. Jaden Reed didn't record a single catch, and Christian Watson was a non-factor. Like
yeah, they were
it
just
was the
leaving fucking Dubes
Romeo
open. Like,
Dubes. Oh, it was the Romeo Dubes show. Musgrave, Kraft. Like they have endless guys. Dontavian Wicks stash video. If you haven't go see it, check it out. Dontavian Wicks. So it's like, how many of these guys are they going to run out? Bo Melton making plays. Like it's insane how many guys they could run out there. And I think just to wrap up the Packers point, I know I'm super excited about it. I could probably talk about it for the whole show, but I won't. The thing that really excites me, and listen, I loved having Aaron Rodgers on my team for 15 years, but Jordan Love will throw it to whoever's open. It does not matter what the name on the back of the jersey says. He's going to throw it to whoever's open. And I think that's really important, especially with the Matt LaFleur offense, that you're finally starting to see the full unleashing of it. Is if you're open, he's going to throw it. And he's made stars, semi-stars, I should say, out of guys like Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton. Obviously, we know about Watson, Reed, and Dubes. So it's interesting to really see the evolution of this offense and guys coming out of nowhere to just be major contributors in playoff games, man. It's amazing to see. And the Packers will probably win that division next year.
yeah. Brevin Jordan. I'm okay with stashing Brevin Jordan.
I would
He was
agree.
on one of my stash videos for last year. They wound up signing Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but remember when
but he is
Schultz was
1-year
out,
deal. So, are they going to re-sign him? I mean, he's played well this year. So, if he gets re-signed, then Brevin Jordan ain't shit. But
no, but he can make an impact. Like I know he only had the one catch, but did go for 76 yards and a touchdown.
oh, he's a good athlete. That's
Yeah.
why I like him.
Yes,
That's
he
why
is.
people do like him. But the
Yes,
problem
he
is, like,
is.
what is the team going to do now? Like, if Schultz is the guy, then Schultz is the guy.
Yep.
So you could hold on to him for now, and then
I would
see
agree.
what happens. So, as a Packer fan, do you think Emmanuel Wilson's a reasonable stash, or drop for some other shittier RB like Durnest or Deuce?
So I don't think I mean, it really depends on what they do with AJ Dillon. I don't know the details of AJ Dillon's contract status, but I don't believe Emmanuel Wilson is worth rostering, in my opinion. If AJ Dillon is back and if both AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are back, no, Emmanuel Wilson doesn't mean a whole lot. They were running Taylor out there for a little bit as well, so there's just not enough upside there if AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are still on that roster. So no, I would say no to that question.
I'm actually going to say yes to that question. Depending how deep your league is, right? I'm not sure, how deep your league is, what the roster size is, but yes, if you got room for him, like any running back, like I'm okay with rostering. Like we don't know if Dillon is going to be back. Is he or is he not? I mean, Jones is getting older. Is he going to be back? If one of those guys gets injured, which they both did this season, I mean, somebody's got to be back there. Somebody's got to be back there to play running back. So for that particular sense, I don't like. I mean, Dearness Johnson, no. I wouldn't hold him. Deuce is interesting, but
Deuce Vaughn is interesting.
like, is he going to actually carve out an actual role, or is he just going to be this once in a while, trick in the pan kind of thing? So I don't necessarily like that. Now, I don't necessarily like Emmanuel Wilson in general, but if there's a possibility that he does play, that's a pick in your pocket right there. That's a third round pick that you can potentially get. Emmanuel Wilson, I don't think is one of those guys that if there is nobody there, he's just gonna fucking be running all over people and be Kyron Williams or Zach Moss. I don't think he's coming in like that, but just for the purpose of possibly getting a pick out of it, like I'm okay with holding him.
That's fair. I just don't think he has any residual value. But like you said, crazy things happen. And I think Nick said that Dillon is a free agent, but it's hard to see. I do think if Aaron Jones does come back, and I think Aaron Jones will come back. I think he loves being there. I think the Packers do like having him there. I think he's going to have to come back on a fairly reduced price just because his injury history is getting a little bit older. But don't underestimate how much Aaron Jones really means to that team. And I think Aaron Jones should get the lion's share. It's tough, honestly. But like you said, I definitely see it from your point. We talked about running back stashes. Like those are the type of guys that you want to stash. I don't know if I'm going that far with Emmanuel Wilson, but it can't hurt if you have the roster spots.
Nikki said her stash is Demercado. Yeah, like that. CEH, Chase Brown. Yeah, that's a good one. Damian Pierce.
You talked about Chase Brown. Damian Pierce.
Well, Chase Brown, I mean, it's hard to stash at this point. Like, you have to go buy him. Like, you can't just throw a third and get Chase Brown at this point. Like, you've got to give more than that. Don't underestimate Wicks. Got that dog in him.
Man, listen, Wicks, I'm a big fan of. I talked about him. Steve agreed with it when we were talking about him as the wide receiver stash. And another important piece I brought up with Dontavian Wicks is the Christian Watson correlation. When Christian Watson either doesn't play, is limited, or is just not on the field, that opens up Dontavian Wicks to be that second, third receiver. Jordan Love trusts the hell out of him, and it was evidenced by that just fantastic highlight reel touchdown pass he threw there to Wicks in the Dallas game. So really, really just proud to see these guys evolve, mature. There's no egos. There's no one star on that team. And I think that makes them really difficult to defend as well. Is like 1 week it could be Dubes, like we saw. 1 week it could be Wicks. 1 week it could be Jaden Reed. So, and that's before you get to Christian Watson.
Diaz, what up, Diaz?
My man.
Emmanuel Wilson sell for anything. Practice squad guy. Yeah, I can see that too. But depending on, some of the leagues, like some of the leagues, like there's most of the leagues I'm in, there is no fucking running backs. Like the guys that are available in waivers are like free agents.
Free agents. Yeah.
Not on teams. Like
there's nothing out there, bro. Nothing.
So depending what you got, I'm still okay with it. But I get it. Like I said, I don't expect them to be anything, but trade piece if possible. Tajay Spears is next year's Rashard White. Yeah, listen, Tajay Spears, Chase Brown, like those are some of the guys that you want, right? Jalen Warren had a role this year. I mean, those are the kind of guys that you want for next year. You
And
know,
to
the only
further,
problem is a lot of people are on those guys, so those are guys
Mhm.
that you actually have to buy, like, I wouldn't necessarily consider them stashes, but, you know, because you have to actually pay up for some of those guys. They're second round picks and up.
And also really quick, like another thing with Tajay Spears and why his price is going to skyrocket is because we've pretty much seen the end of Derrick Henry in Tennessee. So
Exactly.
people are going to look at Tajay Spears and go, he's going to be getting good volume. So, and if he's getting Rashad White volume and producing Rashad White statistics for you, that price is only going to go up.
Or give up to mid to late second play. Yeah, I mean, that's what you're gonna have to give, you know, for sure. I'm okay with doing it. Those are, you know, some buy lowish kinda those RB2s. Mahomes 480, Love 508, Hustler Dynasty. Yeah, I mean, listen, that was
Let's
for one I mean, if you're gonna go by one season and say, "Hey, I'd rather have Jordan Love than Mahomes in Dynasty," I mean, if that's not recency bias, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what is. I mean, we've seen Mahomes. Let me just
we
pull him up.
know, we know.
Let me
And listen, I'm going to
just
agree
pull him
with
up
you.
real quick.
I'm going to say this is that
Go ahead.
that was the floor for Mahomes, right? Like that feels like the floor for Mahomes.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily think this is the ceiling for Jordan Love, but he played probably. And listen, though, that was with some really bad games mixed in there, right? The game against Detroit, he was awful. That game against the Vegas Raiders, he was absolutely dreadful. There was games where he
Mhm.
finished about. There was games where he finished with like under 200 yards, so it was pretty rough sledding early on. So I think Jordan can get to 4,500 yards and close to 40 touchdowns if everything kind of progresses the way we've been seeing it. So, but that's the floor from Mahomes. I'm not going that far yet. I will go so far as to say he's a top 10 guy, right at 10, but I can't go any higher than 10 because it's been one season and one really good playoff game. So I'm not going to overreact too much, but I do think he's firmly sitting in that 10 spot.
Mhm. I mean, listen, Mahomes has thrown twice, 2 5 thou wow seasons. I mean,
Wow. I love that.
4,800, a
Yeah.
4,700. I mean, 40 tutties, 40 total tutties, 39 total tutties, and then without Tyreek
50.
Hill, fucking
Yeah.
45 total tutties.
Yeah. It's
So, like, yeah, it was a down year. It was definitely a down year for Mahomes, but I mean, for a guy that can throw and have 40 tutties, I mean, consistently,
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
rough
gonna go that
to,
far yet, but listen, I said that I think Mahomes we might start to see a little bit of slippage in his numbers. Not to say he's not as good a quarterback because we all know he's going to be an amazing quarterback. But the pieces around him are starting to erode a little bit, right? We saw Kelsey kind of take a step back production wise. No Tyreek Hill. Rashee Rice has developed nicely. But outside of that, do you feel comfortable with anything else outside of Rashee Rice? Travis Kelsey, notwithstanding, who's going to be
mm,
35 years old. So, he's got to find some proven pass catchers. Listen, they go out there and
sure.
they get Mike Evans with a Rashee Rice, and you add in Kelsey at whatever state he's in, bro. He's going to throw for another 40 tutties and close to 5,000 yards.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously they're not gonna keep it this way. There's no way. You know, Mahomes threw what 27 tutties this year. I mean, a lot of that is down at the goal line too. Like it just wasn't as much as it was. And I mean, we've seen Mahomes throw 50 tutties before. Like that's fucking insane. Um, so does that ever happen again? I mean, probably not. But I mean, high 30s, 40s for sure. We've seen it without Tyreek Hill already. So it's just a matter of getting some other pieces in there for sure.
Like I said, I'm not going that far. We know Mahomes is still QB1. Now you can make the argument Josh Allen, right? But Josh Allen turns it over a little too much for my liking. But
I
you
put
can make
Josh
the
Allen
argument.
as I put him as the one just because he has been the last 4 years. Like last year, obviously with the Hamlin injury, that's the only reason why he didn't wind up finishing QB1. So
Right.
I put him up there, and for the simple fact that he doesn't always have to rely on his leg. Like he can sling the football too. So
Now, another interesting little tidbit that we can start to talk about, and I know you just put out the QB rankings. Jalen Hurts, like who's the QB3 now all of a sudden? Jalen Hurts.
You could say he slides down, but
Joe Burrow's
I
been
mean,
hurt.
listen, every once in a while there's gonna be, there's gonna be
Justin
some down
Herbert.
seasons, but
Is Lamar the QB3 now?
I mean, you had Hurts still finish QB2. I mean, and you can say it wasn't a great season, but
All those rushing touchdowns.
yeah, 38 total tutties. I mean, it's
What's
something
going on
you
with
can
AJ
have.
Brown, man? Jesus, that was poof. But they might bring in a new coach, right? Like there's a little bit of stuff going on in Philadelphia right now that makes me nervous. As a Jalen Hurts owner in our subscriber league, it makes me nervous. Do I think he's going to be fantastic next year? Yeah, but am I concerned? A little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he could be on one of these sell high lists.
I didn't think about it. I actually thought about another quarterback that was pretty high up here on a sell list, but I didn't have the stones to say that on the on the show.
Bogey in the building. What up, Bogey?
There he is.
My wide receiver mission was accomplished. Lost in the first round. Thanks, Bijan. Yeah, I mean,
well, Arthur Smith got fired, so be happy about that. Look for greener pastures now that Arthur Smith is out of there. They interviewed, apparently, the Atlanta Falcons interviewed Bill Belichick, which I find very, very interesting. The Dallas thing is obviously all over the place with Belichick and Dallas, so it'll be interesting to see who the Falcons bring in as their next coach.
Diaz actually makes a good point too. The ex-coach for the Bears, who is the
Matt
chief
Nagy.
offensive coordinator, that piece of
Matt
shit.
Nagy. You know what's funny about that, Diaz, really quick before you finish this up? I was talking with Bagala throughout the course of the season, and we were talking about that exact point that Diaz is bringing up, is that he's like, Matt Nagy is just a curse. He's like a black
forgot
cat.
about that.
Yeah, so
I remember
about
that it happened, but then I totally, like during the season, I totally
you don't really
forgot.
think, yeah.
But yeah, that's true too. And Mahomes is going to be, on a buy low list. I mean, for sure, send offers for Mahomes. You got Jordan Love. Can you go get Mahomes for Love in a second?
That's a little. I don't know why anybody would do that. Like, I'm not doing that. That's crazy. And I'm on the Love train, but that's a little ridiculous.
Listen, people are saying Love's top 5. Like people are saying that.
He did finish as QB5 though.
You know how people are with
they overreact.
Recency things. And when points are being scored, people are putting a ton of stock into that. So. And that's where we can take advantage of, certain situations, like when Mahomes is cheap right now.
I feel it. No arguments.
That's true too. The Chiefs' defense has been really good. Also, it's another good point on Mahomes.
But if we do look at it, though, he has not been as efficient, with the lack of talent. Because think about the MVS drops. Think about the
trash. I don't even know why they have that guy on the team.
That's what I'm saying. Think about the Kadarius Toney drops, right? Like so Patrick Mahomes' numbers could be even better if those guys are actually catching. Travis Kelce was dropping passes, for Christ's sake, like that we never see from him. Even in the playoff game a couple of nights ago, he was dropping some uncharacteristic passes. He still had a solid game, but I think Patrick Mahomes' numbers are a little bit skewed just because of the bad receiver play this year.
Yeah. AJ Brown, Amon-Ra, Puka, Nico, JSN, Flowers, Christian Watson, Elijah Moore, Christian Kirk. I know I went a little overboard. Are those guys to sell high on, are you saying?
I think that might be who she has.
Or is that who you have on your team?
Then that's fucking really good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She says her wide receiver mission was accomplished. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Wide receiver.
And now you have value. If you need to go out and make a move, you have that value.
You got some value, you got some depth if you need to go buy a little running back for the season. Jamie said, "Why can't Lamar be QB1?"
He can. I don't think that there's anything stopping him. I still worry about Lamar's health just from his style of play. He finished as QB4. Obviously, the rushing upside is fucking ridiculous. I think he played really well, especially down the stretch of the season. There is no reason why he can't be QB1. I still think Josh Allen has a little bit of a higher ceiling than Lamar on a per week basis, but Lamar's right there. I'll be honest with you. I think Lamar after this season kind of slides in as that QB3 just because Burrow's been hurt. Justin Herbert hasn't been consistent. And Jalen Hurts, there's some weird things going on in Philadelphia right now. So I think Lamar can slide up to that QB3 spot for me, right behind Mahomes and Allen.
Yeah, I mean, he literally can't be QB1 because there's this guy named Josh Allen that lives in the world, so he cannot be QB1. But I mean, you could make the argument for QB2, especially in like one QB leagues.
He was QB1 in 2019,
right? Especially in one QB leagues.
Yeah, you heard me. He was QB1 in 2019.
Yeah, that was the first and last.
All right, that's getting a little.
I'm just saying because Josh Allen is alive and okay and not hurt. I just can't put Lamar. You can't put Lamar in one. I mean,
I agree.
QB1, QB1, QB2, QB1 the past 4 years would have been again should have been QB1 last year too. So for that reason, just can't. But I do like Lamar. You can make the argument for him. I'm okay with that. I can see that. Take Allen over Mahomes, yeah. I got you. Is Stroud over Burrow? So this is actually we could have a whole fucking show on the Stroud.
That is
on Stroud Burrow. We'll
fantastic
touch
question.
on it quick before we start getting into the some of the sell high players. But for me, and I just put out my QB rankings, was I have Burrow and then I have Stroud. So I have Burrow at 4 and I have Stroud at 5. You could call it a 4A, 4B if you want to, but I just can't put him over Burrow yet. Can you make the argument maybe because of his age? Yes, but I mean, shit, man. We've seen Joe Burrow throw, almost 40 tutties multiple seasons, over 4,500 yards multiple seasons. We've seen him start killing it this year until he got hurt, right? Like the 3 games before he got hurt, 3, 4, 5 games, whatever it was. Like he was getting his shit together. So you could for sure make the argument, and I'm not mad at nobody for it. But for me, I'm still gonna have Joe Burrow, and it's like I said, slightly 4A, 4B. But what do you think?
I completely agree, and listen. Maybe I'm a little blinded because Joe Burrow's been my first dynasty team ever. I took Joe Burrow as my quarterback, and he helped me get to a couple of championships. And the guy was amazing. Like he was just absolutely amazing. And I've seen it, like you said. I think we've seen it for a good enough amount of time that we can't just put Stroud right ahead after one season. Kind of same thing with Jordan Love, right? Like we can't just elevate these guys over more proven guys. Now, the injury concern with Joe Burrow is starting to worry me a little bit, right? He obviously had the appendectomy last season, had the calf injury this past off season. You saw it limited him in the first month of this season. So, and then obviously he had I believe it was some sort of hand issue, thumb, whatever, wrist. He had surgery on his wrist. So yeah, it's concerning. But I still have Burrow slightly, like you said. The best way to put it is 4A, 4B. But yeah, it's close.
I mean, I'm okay with it. That would be, I said basically my argument against it, but there's a ton of arguments for Stroud. I mean, he's 22 years old, but he played what 15 games.
Yep.
I was about to sneeze. So yeah, he played 15 games. I mean, 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 intos, like good ratio. But I mean, listen, 23 touchdowns, 4,100 yards. I mean, Burrow has done more than that, for numerous years. So
I
Like I
agree.
said, I can get behind it, but I'm still gonna have him slightly ahead, just slightly. And you could say, hey, CJ Stroud basically is gonna be Joe Burrow in a couple years. Shit,
Well, then
absolutely. I can get on board with that too. So, like I said, with the age, you can absolutely make the argument for it.
I don't think the age though is as big of a factor
And
because Joe.
quarterbacks, not yeah.
Right, because it's the quarterbacks and because of the style of quarterbacks that Joe Burrow and CJ Stroud are. Like Joe Burrow's not Joe Burrow's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Josh Allen. He's not, Kyler Murray. He's not any of these running type quarterbacks. So I think his shelf life as he gets a little bit older will be a lot more stable than somebody like a Lamar or, Kyler Murray, something like that. So the age discrepancy, whatever, 4 years, that doesn't factor into how I feel about these guys.
Like you said, something happened behind the scenes for the Eagles. Team gave up on the coaching. Listen, it was weird. We've always kind of said, even during the season, like they never really had like an offensive identity.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
they kind of just play and then like push it, and okay, that's fine. But like when things aren't going your way, like you have to have some kind of identity. Like it feels like, and I just felt like they didn't really have that.
Because if you remember at the beginning of the season, I think they were 10-0, 10-1, something like that. They were winning a lot of these close type games, right? Where they were kind of coming back or whatever. And it's something like you said, and we talked about this in the middle of the season when we were doing our shows, during the season, where it just felt like something just wasn't, it didn't feel the same as it felt last year, where everything kind of clicked last year. And obviously they lost their offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen. I forgot where he's coaching now, but they lost their offensive coordinator. So that matters. And I think we tend to underestimate these offensive coordinators, especially the really good ones, when they leave these kind of Super Bowl, championship conference teams and they go to a new team and get a head coaching spot. I think we underestimated that a little bit, and it kind of bared fruit there at the end of the season. And then like the AJ Brown thing is weird too. Like I heard some rumblings like AJ Brown, is a little unhappy. There's some rumblings there with AJ Brown, but it's just it's hard to explain what happened there. There had to be something, as Nikki said, behind the scenes where we're just like, bruh, we expected them and San Francisco to be in the NFC Championship game. Like I don't think there was any question in anybody's mind on Halloween that Philadelphia and San Francisco were going to be in the NFC Championship game. And then you lose to Baker
Yeah,
Mayfield in the playoffs. Like, what the hell?
bro, Baker's killing it. Baker's
Baker's
back.
playing well. Baker's playing well.
Baker's
No arguments. But Philadelphia, with that team
Baker's
they had, should not be losing to Baker Mayfield. I mean, I can't talk. The Packers lost to Baker Mayfield and made him look like Joe Montana, but it's the Eagles we're talking about.
Hit the like, guys. Smash that. Appreciate you, Nikki. Hit the like for us. Hit the subscribe, guys, if you're new. Appreciate y'all trying to get to that 1K. Will, what up, Will? Lamar QB1 in 2019, taken in the 10th round in 1 QB leagues. Yeah, bro, Lamar was a target for me, 1 QB leagues. I post. I'm looking on. Where am I looking at right now? I thought I posted on Instagram. I probably put it in my story, but I can't even see the date. It just says 27 weeks ago, whenever the fuck that was. I posted possible MVP type season incoming from Lamar Jackson this year, heavily target in 1 QB leagues.
You're Nostradamus. We should just listen to you for all our
No.
fantasy needs. We'll never.
Well, in one QB leagues, it's different, right?
I feel it.
You want to go for the upside,
feel
right?
it.
I'll especially after Lamar just came off the injury,
Yep.
coming off of
Yep.
that season. So,
Yep.
Wait and take a QB. Like you can wait and get Lamar. I mean, Will said
And
the league's going to have a lot more film on Stroud. He's behind Burrow for me.
So what's interesting about Lamar is like his passing numbers are never going to be super gaudy, but that rushing upside is so ridiculous. Like he's basically an RB2 and a QB1 rolled into one, which is wild.
Mhm. Yeah, Nikki, I think we were live for the draft last year, I think.
Yep.
Were
We
we?
were.
Yeah, we were.
Mm-hmm.
We were. I don't know if were we on our channel? We might not have been of our channel. We might have been on the 420 network, but yeah, we were on. Baker's gonna get his bag, possibly. Yeah, no AJ Brown. There was no chance without AJ Brown.
Yep.
No chance. No chance. Don Carlos, what's up? All right, guys. Let's start getting into. Let's start getting into some sell high players right now. And there's a shit ton of them. It was actually hard for me when I was making my list. I'm like, damn, who should
I
I
agree.
pick? Should I
I agree.
Anyway, we've got a few guys for you here. You took one of my guys. I've mentioned that I was going to trade him from one of my teams after the season.
I
So
thought
I was
when
like, I know who he's going to take, but I'm okay because I'll take another guy that I like,
when
to come off of as well. But yeah.
when I sent you my notes, I had a feeling you were going to have that guy on there. And that's kind of the reason why, especially when we're doing these kind of buys and stashes and stuff, I do send you the notes. So this way we don't kind of overlap each other. I'm sure we'll touch on it. You'll give your thoughts. We'll give our thoughts. But I definitely wanted to make sure. And I definitely figured you had this guy on there. I don't know if you have him for the same reasons. I'm pretty sure because we talk about, these reasons quite often. But yeah, I figured you might have this guy on your list.
All right, so let's talk about some sell high players. Dynasty right now, players are skyrocketing and continuing, obviously going into the off season. But who do you have as a player that we are looking to sell right now, coming off of?
So I'm going to mention the guy that you definitely had on your list. We weren't sure what his role was going to be coming into this season. He did play a little bit last year, but he absolutely came out this season and just surprised the hell out of a lot of people. He's probably either a super late round pick or picked up off the waiver wires, depending on your league. Played for a resurgent team. Basically dominated the lion's share of the carries for this particular squad. They did bring in other guys, but that didn't matter when this guy was on the field. That is the Los Angeles Rams running back, number 23, Kyren Williams. It's funny because Bagala traded a first-round pick for Kyren Williams in our home dynasty league.
Way back last year, yeah.
And Steve called him crazy. Said, you're out of your mind. You traded in a first-round pick. Now, it is not a super flex league, so the picks aren't as valuable as they are, and it's not as many starters as our subscriber league, but at the time, I thought it was crazy.
At that particular time, though, too, it wasn't the situation like coming into this year. So
it was not. But that is a guy that Bagala did believe in, and it kind of bared fruit this season. But the reason why I do say Kyren Williams, he is still incredibly young. I believe he's only 23 years old. Yeah, he's still only 23 years old. But we see this with running backs all the time, where a running back will come out of nowhere, have just an absolute monster of a season, and that team either goes out and drafts a running back or they bring somebody in, and we're like, what the fuck? James Robinson from the Jaguars is the absolute perfect comp to this guy, and I've seen it enough where I'm not going to get fooled by that anymore. I didn't get fooled with the James Robinson thing, but like there is a precedent for this sort of thing to happen. So Kyren Williams, a couple of my notes here, he was a running back with heavy usage. By heavy usage, I mean games with 20 plus carries. He had 7 of those. And Kyren Williams had 7 games of 20 plus carries. He only played 12 games, guys. So that is heavy, heavy usage. And if you look at his last 5 games, 21 carries, 25 carries, 27 carries, 22 carries, 20 carries. Also, he missed a month in the middle of the season. So keep that in mind as well. Obviously, he was drafted in the 5th round, so there's not a ton of draft capital invested in this guy, right? He's not Saquon Barkley. He's not Bijan Robinson. He's not Breece Hall. He's not any of these kind of highly touted running backs. I know Breece Hall was a 2nd round running back. Jahmyr Gibbs comes to mind as well. So we've seen guys that have these bust out seasons that are 4th and 5th round picks, and then the team goes out there and gets another running back. So, and can he repeat 15 total touchdowns? We always, especially in fantasy, we talk about a regression to the mean. I think this kind of feels like that similar situation. So Kyron Williams had a fantastic season, kind of a reason why that the Rams bounced back and were able to make the playoffs. We didn't think they were going to be very good this year. But for me, he is an absolute sell high. And the fact that he's only 23 years old, you're probably going to get good value for him from somebody that's looking out there to go buy a running back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's one of those right now he's what, RB, I think what, 5,
7,
6, or 7. Let me pull it up on
7.
Keep Trade Cut here. Where he's running back 7 on no, he's not. He's running back
I have
5
him
on
as
Keep Trade Cut.
Oh, Keep Trade Cut. I had him
So
running back
yeah,
7 overall for this season.
oh yeah, no. If you're looking at Keep Trade Cut, he's RB5 right now in the Dynasty community. He got a shit ton of work, right? He was the workhorse guy. But I mean, like you said, low draft capital. We do see it from this all the time. The only thing with him is he's got 2 more years left. He's got 24 and 25. But we do see this kind of thing all the time, right? You brought up J-Rob, right? I brought up in a couple of chats, I think I was talking about it, Alfred Morris, Philip Lindsay, right? Sometimes these guys have great seasons and they get used, and then they're just not used anymore, or they just don't get re-signed, and then or situations change, right? Kyron Williams, I mean, awesome situation this year. There's no competition in the backfield, right? They got rid of Cam Akers' bum ass. And now going into next season, he's pretty much the only guy in a draft class that doesn't have many great running backs that's coming out. So he's still going to probably look good for next year as well. So he's a guy that's being valued as a top 5 dynasty running back, which if he's going to be valued in the top 5 and you can get top 5 prices for him, I mean, just think of what you can come off of him for and get yourself a wide receiver that can last you, years, or way more years than to get a top 10 wide receiver for Kyron Williams, right? I'm currently going to be trying to do that.
That's insane value.
So it's an insane opportunity to try and sell high. Yes, he is very young, so people believe in him. People think that he's going to be the future, and he could very well be. But I don't want to make that bet. If I have something that valuable, I need to turn that into something that's going to be valuable for my team for a long period of time. At least that's how I look at it. Right. I want to sell this player high, right? I'll buy into some kind of running backs next year if I need to. But for right now, I want to capitalize on what that guy's value is, because RB5, I mean, not that he doesn't deserve to be there, right? He had an insane season this year, but they're going to run him into the ground like McVay loves to do. I mean, it's only a matter of time. And then once he gets injured, that's it. All the value is gone. It's plummeted. You can't come off of him. So it's definitely a tough situation. But what else could happen, right? What else bad could happen next year that maybe shit doesn't pan out for Kyron Williams, right? I mean,
Rams are terrible.
Stafford's always banged up, right? What if the Rams are terrible, like we thought they were going to be this year? But I mean, things could happen. We see it every season, right? So what if Stafford goes out there and pulls an Aaron Rodgers next year? First game, fucking boom, tears the shit. What do we do at that point? Because Kyron Williams is probably not going to be looking as good as he did this year.
No, I would agree. I totally agree, and I think
it's another value loss.
Also, with Kyron Williams, it's just so even if he has another good, nobody's paying a running back. It's just such a fickle thing. We talk about this week in, week out, show in, show out. Josh Jacobs went through it. Jonathan Taylor went through it, although he did get re-signed, but that was clearly an outlier. Saquon Barkley's going through it. Austin Eckler's having issues, right? So the running back situation, you have to capitalize as quickly as possible, because as you said, all it takes is one injury, one major injury, a Nick Chubb type injury, God forbid, but that's all it takes for that first round value to plummet to basically nothing.
he is an outlier, right? He's a smaller running back. He's not meant to carry a
5'9",
workhorse load, and you're
5'9",
giving him the
194.
workhorse load, and he didn't
He
survive the
missed a
whole
month.
season.
He missed
He
a
missed the
month.
whole month, right? He didn't survive the season at that. So, listen, when you're trying to win, I mean, you run him into the ground. I mean, I don't blame fucking Sean McVay. It is what it is. That's the landscape. That's what you got to do.
And
But
if you watch the Rams-Lions game, he didn't finish that game either.
mhm.
I think he came out
So
midway through the third quarter, something like that.
yeah. So yeah, I'd definitely be looking to move Kyron for some kind of top 12-ish wide receiver. For sure. I didn't look up kind of what you can trade him for because I looked up only my dudes, but sending Kyron and Love for Mahomes. There you go. Shit.
Okay.
Hammer's not on the Love trade, he's on the Love boat. Yeah, that's true.
Take me home, baby.
That's true. But yeah, and it's not that I don't like Kyron as the player. Like he can go out next year and do the same exact thing he did this year. Maybe he does a little bit better if he's able to stay healthy the whole season. But all the stars have to align. A lot of things have to go right for him to keep this value right next season or the year after, right? And for me,
Yep.
I'm just not willing to take the chance on that. Right? Unless I'm in position, well, even if I'm in position to win right now, I'm still trying to move off of him. It doesn't even matter, right? I just won the ship in one league. I'm still moving off of him. I already have 3 top 12 wide receivers. I'm gonna go get another one.
Because you
I'm
got to
gonna go get
capitalize
another
on
one.
that value.
Yeah. And I'll find another running back that I can play. Now, in shallower leagues, running back's obviously a little bit more important when you're playing, I see some of these like start 7s, start 8s, like, but when you're playing in Superflex, start 10, which is kind of the standard nowadays, start 11, start 12 even now. You want to stack up on the wide receivers. You don't want to get stuck holding value on those running backs and lose out or miss out. A perfect example is Javonte Williams a few years ago, valued as a top 5 running back, right? And I'll give you my example. I traded Cheetah before, as soon as he went to the Dolphins, before they played a fucking game in the offseason, probably a little bit after he got traded.
I
I
remember
traded
this.
Cheetah for Javonte Williams because he was the hot commodity coming out. And then what did Javonte do? He goes out and fucking blows out his knee, right? Never the same. He went from, a top 5 RB to where is he now?
Gotta be in the 20s, no?
RB 16 right now. Right?
Yep.
So I'm not doing it. And as these guys get hurt, like you see it, they just lose way too much value. I don't want to bank on the future or bank for the best case scenario all the time. Sometimes you have to take the reality of it or what can happen in the short term and the long term, and then kind of make a decision on what you want to do. But coming off Kyron, I like. What top 10 wide receiver do you think someone could realistically get for Kyron Diggs someone better? Now you could. I'll tell you right now.
I wouldn't go for Diggs. I'd go, and he put another comment in there, Waddle or Olave. That's where you want to go.
Olave's perfect, which was I was going to bring him up for one of my
Devonta Smith.
But yeah, Chris Olave. If you could try and get Garrett Wilson, I mean, you might have to give up a little bit more on top of Kyron. But the thing is, Kyron gets you at least in the conversation. That's the thing is Kyron gets you in the conversation for one of those top guys. Right? Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins. You could literally try and get anybody that you want. I mean, outside of like top 5 guys.
And it's not going to take much. Like if you add a second on top of it or, something like that, a late first, then you could really get yourself a seat at a top 8 type wide receiver. So that's where the value really comes in, is because now, like, as you said, the most important thing is getting the conversation open. Once the conversation's open and the guy's like, all right, I'll do Kyron in a second for Olave. Boom, done.
Yeah. Or you could even go down lower, right? You can go down lower. Do you maybe you want to pick up more assets on top of it, right? Depending on your situation or what your team structure is, right? Do you go down even lower and start picking up picks on, a first on top of it, a second on top of it? Do you go down to like the let's see, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, Michael Pittman range, DK Metcalf? Do you try and get first on top of that? Do you try and get multiple guys, right? All depends on kind of your situation, but those would be guys I'd be okay tearing down to if I'm getting something good on top of it, right?
Yeah, especially depending on what situation you're in, right? Like you said, I mean, I know you said it doesn't matter what situation you're in, but the situation does matter in a sense where would I need to split Kyron into multiple assets, or do I package something with Kyron to go up and get myself that top tier wide receiver, maybe a super flex quarterback if that's your situation?
Mm-hmm. In that case, it matters. I meant no matter my situation, if I'm competing or rebuilding or
Or
whatever my
tanking.
situation
Yeah.
is, in that sense, I'm moving him. I have
Mm-hmm.
the chance to move him as a top 5 guy, I'm moving him. Oh, Jamie says it right here. Pittman plus for Kyron, Waddle or Olave. Yep. Now Diggs, you should be getting a lot more on top of just Diggs. I'd be asking for
Yeah, I'm not.
a first plus even for if I'm grabbing Diggs.
Yeah, I'm not reaching for Diggs. I'd rather kind of go for the younger guy. You want to go the Olave
Exactly.
route, the Garrett Wilson, the
I want that core
um,
piece.
I'd go for Devonta Smith and a little bit something extra depending on the situation like that. I'm comfortable with that.
Sure. Which brings me to my next sell high, which is a guy that's right behind him, which is going to be Devon Achane.
Ooh,
Same kind of thing.
nice.
I'm selling him high. He's being valued as a top 10 running back, top 5 in some people's eyes, right? Mostert is an older guy, right? He should still be there next year. There's obviously a possibility he's not. But for me, I don't see a scenario or a world other than a bunch of injuries happening where Achane gets given the reins and the workhorse load to become like that Kyron. I don't see that ever happening. I think he's always going to have a role and he's always going to be a good running back. But the landscape of the running back position right now automatically just vaults him into the top 10, top 8, top 5, wherever you want to put him. I mean, he deserves to be decently high up there. I can't put him over a guy like JT or even McCaffrey or even Kyron for that point right now. But yeah, Achane is a guy that I definitely want to come off of because I don't know what is going to happen. I do know that they're not going to give him the reins. He's a smaller guy. We've seen once he starts getting work, he's got
Mm-hmm.
already injury concerns, which was the
Yep.
concern of him coming out of college. That was the thing with Achane, kind of like Kyron. He's a smaller running back. He can't take on
Kind of the same
that
mold as
workload.
Kyron.
Can't take on that workload. He's always going to be the second guy. He's always going to be a part of a committee. He's never going to be the guy that gets 20 plus carries a game. It's not happening, especially in that offense, the way that they like to do things. So I don't see that happening. I think same kind of situation as Kyron. The value is way too high at the running back position, and I want to move off. I don't mind Devin Achane. I don't not like him as a player. He's a great player in a great system. He's going to have great games. He's going to have amazing games that are going to win you weeks. I'm not denying that at all. But what I want to do is take that value and transfer it while I can to another position, whether that's wide receiver, whether that's quarterback. I had here, Achane in a second for Olave, Achane in a third for Olave. Depending how people feel, you should be able to pull that off, right? Olave didn't have a killer season, but he had a very good season. He was
Mm-hmm.
what, top 20, I believe.
And he's still valued.
So he's still valued pretty high, but people are not as excited as they once were, Jalen Waddle, maybe, right? Straight up Nico
Mm-hmm.
Collins. I mean, if you can get any of these guys, I'm okay with coming off of I'm trying to come off of Achane, trying to just transfer the value. Same kind of situation as we talked about with Kyron. So
Yeah, the Achane thing is incredibly interesting because there are people who are going to go out there, see the insane numbers that he could put up on a per game basis, and go, yeah, I want some of that in that Miami offense that we know is going to be really good next year, regardless of what we saw in the playoffs and freezing Kansas City. And he's incredibly young, right? He was a rookie. So I think that boosts his value even more where he's still 22 years old, I believe. But the scary thing for me was that the dude just is not going to be able to stay on the field for you consistently enough for you to be able to capitalize on that production. And if he's not in your lineups, he's not doing squat for you. So you might as well package him with some and upgrade your roster.
He's one of those boom bust guys. Like, you have to play him, but give me him as my RB2. Give me him as my flex guy that I can throw in there. Like, I'm not relying on him as my RB1. So, and he lost you the playoffs. Week 15, 9 points. Week 16, 4 points. I mean, if you played him in the ship, if you made it that far with him shit in the bed the last 2 weeks, then, obviously that turned out well. But I just think he's always going to be a guy that's going to have a role, and he's going to be, productive. But number one, he's a running back. Number two, he's never going to get the workload. So I just can't value him that high in the top 5 area with guys that are actually getting, workhorse loads. So take advantage of the value, come off Olave, Waddle, Nico Collins. Those are, some of the guys I'd be trying to look at. Or if you can get into the higher range, like we said, Achane will get you into the conversation possibly of, some of these higher end guys. Maybe does it get you into the conversation with an Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? I don't even know if you need to go that high. I probably wouldn't. I probably just take one of the guys, like I said. But
yeah, and it'll be relatively easy to get the conversation started with a guy like Achane because he is explosive. We've seen what he can do, and the fact that he can win you weeks. I think that the fact that he is such a valuable asset, maybe overvalued asset, get you to the table, right? That's what you're looking for. Get to the table, open up the conversations, and people will probably make some of these deals. Now, the smarter GMs will be like, hold on a minute, this is a running back that gets hurt all the time, but it'll get you in the conversation. If you add the sweeteners that we talked about, seconds, thirds, you should be able to really cash in on that value.
Crispy said, "No way, I'm giving up Pittman for Kyron." I feel you. I mean, I'm not going out and buying Kyron, but there are people out there that will go out and buy Kyron and give up Pittman easily, especially now that Anthony Richardson is coming back as a quarterback. There's people that like, we've seen Pittman's value go up. He was as high as, I think, wide receiver 10 or 11 on Keep Check Cut at one point this season. And now it's starting to go down because they're not playing anymore. A-Rich is coming back, so people are starting to take that into consideration, and people are kind of putting them down for it. So I do think it's something that you can get done, and not every league's going to be the same, so everybody's different. But in some leagues, you should be able to get them. Sam, yep. What up, Sam? Jordan Love looks scary. Yeah, Achane was as high as RB5, which was nuts.
Work done. That's an interesting comp.
Work done.
Work done was more of a workhorse type guy, even though he was small.
I feel like Warren Dunn was kind of jacked for a little guy. Like, not jacked, but like fit, like
solid.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it not like jacked, but yeah, solid. Like, that motherfucker could take a hit.
He never really, like, I mean, obviously Warwick Dunn was kind of in my infancy years of watching football, but Warwick Dunn was on the field a lot as far as I can remember when he was with Atlanta and I believe Tampa Bay. But yeah, interesting comp.
Prediction on Ford and Chubb. Well, I mean, I don't know. Hopefully Chubb comes back healthy. Ford will probably have a role, I would think. I don't think they just hand Nick Chubb 25 carries coming off of a blown fucking knee. No. So yeah, I think there'll be some kind of role for Ford. So
I definitely think there's going to be a role for Ford, and we've referenced the many running backs that have come off these surgeries. Saquon Barkley. Right, they bring these guys they bring these guys along a bit slower when they're coming off these major ACL injuries. Javonte Williams hasn't been the same, and he is extremely young. much younger than Nick Chubb, and he was brought back pretty slow and didn't look the same. And a lot of these guys don't look the same the first year back. It's normally that second year. And Nick Chubb will probably be 29 years old by that time. So really unfortunate situation, because he's one of the workhorse running backs, Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is solid. Small guy, but solid.
Wonder if one of your sub guys is Kenneth Walker. It is not, but any running back is a. I mean, any running back is a sell, really. I mean, if they're a top 10 running back, I mean, you're coming off of my team, just for the fact of what I can get for you, just because of the value that it holds.
Feel it.
And also the narrative is that Mostert is an older guy, so a lot of people really like Achane.
For sure.
Will said certain guys that are never be in the conversation. One of those is Amon-Ra. Listen, I wouldn't trade him either, but there's people out there that trade him.
People trade Chase, people trade Justin Jefferson, people do those things. I don't know why, but they do it.
Yep. Dia says out here in these leagues, there's way too many managers that come across that value RB over even QBs in Superflex Dynasty. Yeah, listen, you take advantage of how people's how people think, because there's a bunch of people out there that love these running backs, like love running backs. So if you can take advantage and get yourself a quarterback in Superflex, I mean, I think right now he's in the Dak range, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on. Pull up the QBs.
I mean, listen, in the defense of these running backs, but listen, if you have these running backs on your team, you could, and you're going for it, it's kind of that redraft mentality that we talked about, where you could be good for a year or two and it could pay dividends next year. If you go out and buy Kyren Williams and he balls out again and has another top, 5-7 season, he could be a part of the reason why you go to a championship. But we're thinking long term. We're thinking 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road. And I don't think in 3 to 5 years we'll be having a conversation about how valuable Kyren Williams is.
Yeah, I mean, and not even that. We're talking strategy. I mean, we're talking take advantage of the market. Like, this is, strategy based. We're not against Kyren Williams. I don't think that he's not going to have a great season next season. Like, he can. Right. But looking at everything, when we're talking about Dynasty, we want to take advantage of value so that we can make our team better for the long term. Let me go buy a top 10, top 12 wide receiver.
With the
I can fucking go buy Kyren Williams again if I want to, but that's always going to be the thing, is you can always go buy the running back again if you want to, right? But if the running back gets hurt, you can't just buy the wide receiver after he gets hurt. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I also think that, and we mentioned this in some of our other videos, is that having these running backs is like driving a car off the lot. The second you get them, the value's depreciated. Like, that's the bottom line. So you're never actually going to get what you gave up if you decide to come off of these running backs if you buy them.
Yeah. You get hurt every ninth touch. Yeah, I mean, unless your name is Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, I mean, CMC is one of those guys you just might have to die on your team with.
I mean, listen, I wouldn't be trading Christian McCaffrey. However, if you could parlay Christian McCaffrey into a superflex quarterback, top 5 superflex quarterback plus, there's scenarios where Christian McCaffrey could be traded.
I was only 3 months older than CMC. People taking CMC. Well, yeah, I mean, the points that CMC is going to put up is way more than what Chubb is going to be put up. And I mean, CMC is catching and receiving. Like, he doesn't have to
in that offense
run the ball 25 times a game. So Chubb is a little more getting banged up, and he's just at that point where some team is just he's gonna be the next, like, he could be the next Lenny Fournette after next season. Like
Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin Cook just kind of moping around somewhere, right? He does have a little left. I'll give him one more shot. But again, I don't know how much they're gonna really put on him on the first, on the first year back. And at that point, is what, 28 after that. So
28, 29. It's
would you
getting up
send the
there.
101 for Hurts in the Superflex?
Ooh. I don't think I'm doing it.
I know we've got some, few things have been happening with Hurts, but still finishing as a top guy.
I don't know if I'm going to see if I can.
I don't know if Hurts is necessarily the one I want, but what's gonna get me closer to the QB I want? Like I don't want Hurts, but what can get me to, what, I don't know, Josh Allen, Mahomes, or any of those guys possibly? Like maybe is it Burrow? Is it like what can get you closer to that? Would the 101 get you closer to that, or is Hurts gonna get you closer to that? You know?
Ryan, if you're in that situation where you have the 101 up for sale, maybe you go after Burrow plus, right? Like, would you be opposed to that? Like, if the two offers were the 101 straight up for Hurts or the 101 for Burrow plus.
I mean, I'm not gonna be opposed to him, but the problem is, like, nobody, at least I don't see much people giving up a high-end quarterback like that for just a
I
101.
agree.
Like,
I agree.
so in just looking at it, like, yeah, I want Hurts. If you're telling me I got to give up one first-round pick and I get Jalen Hurts, like, yeah, fuck yeah, give me Hurts. But if somebody's willing to even make that trade, that just makes me think, like, okay, what is the rest of the league thinking right now? Like, if that's actually a trade on the table,
Interesting scenario. Have you made any offers, Ryan, or is that something you were just mulling?
Mm-hmm.
Be interested
When I
to see if
started
you're
playing.
engaged.
Will, I'm with you on that, because that's true. But back in the day, there was a lot more kind of workhorse guys that were getting the bulk of the carries and the bulk of the work. Back then was a little bit different. And I mean, redraft is a little bit different as well, depending, has your redraft evolved? Is it still kind of that short, like start 7-ish? Like, then the running backs are going to be a little bit more important. But when you're playing in some of the deeper leagues or more starters, that it's just not the way to go. And listen, you could absolutely win that way, right? That's the thing about Dynasty. There's multiple ways to win. But when you're talking about for the long run, like, and what's the chances both of your stud running backs stay healthy? I mean, so that's like, I don't want to bet on that. Like, I'd rather get me some top wide receivers and hold on to, or have some of the stud running backs on my team. Yeah, Ford will be getting touches for sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't build RBs like they used to. That's true for sure. Check a Roshan, I didn't include. Yeah, Jamie, I'm with you there too. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what really, and none of my leagues, like, I can't trade just the 101 to get a top 5 QB. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can do it, then I'll take Jalen Hurts. But if that's a kind of league where they're valuing the 101 over Jalen Hurts, then what else can I get? What else do I have to give up to get somebody else that I want? Like,
well, that's what I was saying, because that's why I mentioned Burrow, because if they're just asking for Hurts for the 101 straight up, can I get Burrow plus for the 101? Like, is somebody crazy enough to do that?
Exactly. All right, Hammer. Let's get into our second sell high player. Hammer, who do you have for us as another sell high player?
This is a little bit of an interesting situation, for a number of reasons, and I'll touch on those shortly. This guy had probably was the best steal of the draft, meaning you got him incredibly late, and he finished as RB2 this season. Plays on the same team as your boy Devon Achane. That is one Raheem Mostert. Now, you might not get as much for him as a Devon Achane because he's going into his age 32 season. But the reason why I'm saying sell high is because coming off of what he did, and you probably should have traded him already before the season ended. But considering where you got him, anything you get back is going to be good value, right? Can you add something to Mostert to go get you, a wide receiver, a second quarterback, a QB2 in Superflex? So if drafting Raheem Mostert in the 15th round of your startup draft net you a super flex quarterback at the end of the day, that's a win for me. So I'm looking at it from, am I getting back more than I invested in my either startup draft or wherever I got Raheem Mostert, which probably wasn't any earlier than round 14, 15, somewhere in that range in startup drafts. Can I turn Raheem Mostert into something positive? Um, Obviously, the first note I have was insane value for where he was drafted. Like that to me is what is going to make him valuable to trade. Obviously, going into the age 32 season, and then Devon Achane is on the scene. So does that devalue him a little bit? Maybe. And there's no way he's getting 21 touchdowns. There's just no way. There is no fucking
So
way.
if I can get a second, I'll take a second for him. I
Which
don't think
is
there's no world where you're getting more than that. So if you can get a second at this at his age with the production that he put up and just if someone will give you a second for him, then yeah, but that even might be hard to get.
I would agree, but the
So
thing
can
for
you
me
throw him
is
in a trade? Can you throw him in a
that's
trade to
where I was gonna
just
go.
sweeten the pot so that you can get, a player, Mostert plus some kind of package deal?
And that's where I was kind of leaning to, because if Mostert or something plus Mostert, right, can get you to that next level. There are people out there. Remember Jamal Williams last year when he had 20 something touchdowns for the Detroit Lions, right? There were people going out there and getting Jamal Williams in trades, like, and they were acquiring something for him. And I think the time is to acquire something for him before you get absolutely zero
Mhm.
going forward, and that goes into the draft. Like I said, you probably should have traded him already, and I did say it was tricky because he is older, and I think a lot of people around the league are like, yeah, that's probably his swan song type of season where he just went out there. But the value is insane, bro. If you got him in the 15th round and you get a third round pick back or a second round pick, in a crazy situation, that's a net gain at the end of the day.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if you could get a second. I mean, I think there are people out there in some leagues that you might be able to do it, but for the most part, like, I'm not giving up I'm probably not even giving up a third for Mostert. I'm not buying Mostert. Imma wait till the season. I'll buy him then. Like, if he survives the off season and fucking training camp and shit, I'll buy him at that point for the third or whatever I need to pay for him. But I'm not gonna buy him now. So yeah, he is a perfect guy to just kind of sell, but he probably works best in a package deal because, like I said, you might not get a second, you might not even get a third, but if he's in a package kind of deal, he gives you that little bit of, that little bit of extra to kind of get the actual guy that you're really trying to get. So I think a package deal might work best with Mostert.
I agree, and my main thing is just getting something for him, because I don't want this is not a guy you want dying on your team and you get nothing out of his
Hmm.
perceived value. Even if it is, like you said, as a sweetener, fuck that. I'm gonna take advantage of that being able to be thrown in there and get something positive.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like you said, Achane back on the scene. I mean, if he can stay healthy. But yeah, you got Achane there. Does he again score 20 plus tutties? Like, I don't know if we can predict that. So you probably are going to see decline most likely, especially at that age. Can he stay healthy again? Can he stay healthy again? So those are all things really, really to look at with Mostert. But yeah, that's a good one.
What's interesting about Mostert is
Trade
he did
down.
miss the Baltimore game in week 17. Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, he played every single game.
So Ryan said he's a defending champ. 101 pick via trade. Dak, Golf, and Russ are my QB. So I'm either taking Caleb or trading it for another QB. Yeah, I would. I mean, if Hurts is a real option, like I'd shoot around and see if I can get. You shouldn't be able to get a top 5 QB with the 101. Like that shouldn't happen. But if that
In
is,
a super flex
if
league?
if
What the
if that's actually possible, then yes, I'd be looking to try and move that pick for a more established quarterback. That's up there. Someone offered me Mostert for my late second, instantly declined. Yeah, I'm not giving it up. I would give up a fourth, but no more. Jamie says if he has Dak, Russ, or Goff, he might just take Harrison Jr.
That's interesting.
It's an option. I don't know. I don't know if I want to. Like I know Dak. You've got Dak and Goff. You can feel comfortable with that, but if you can get Caleb too, I mean, it's a combo. You can make
You
the
got a lot.
argument for
You got
sure.
you got a lot of options as well because you can trade Dak,
You could trade
right?
one of those. Yeah.
You could trade one of those guys, get something. You could package. Like you have a lot of options considering you're in that 101 spot, defending champ. You have two good quarterbacks, and I think Russ is going to be a starting quarterback next year, possibly on like Atlanta or something like that, Vegas maybe even. So you really have three quarterbacks.
I would say also, what's the situation on the format, right? Is it 10 team? Is it 12 team? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to matter a ton. Because 10 team, I'll just take probably Harrison. And how many starters is it, right? Is it relatively shallow? Is it deeper? I mean, some of those things kind of come into play as well when you're talking about it. But like when I'm looking at this, like I know Russ is probably going to play somewhere, but I'm not betting on Russ. I'm not going to be confident in that, right? And then you got Dak and Goff. You feel pretty safe with Dak and Goff. But if I got Caleb, now I'm kind of somebody else now doesn't have Caleb, right? So I'm kind of holding on to that, and I
And you
have
have the
that
value.
just that
Yep.
asset in general that it's a QB. I'm going to be able to move him if I need to. So it's actually it's
A lot
tough.
of
It's a really
options.
good one because, yeah, 10 team. I'm definitely taking Harrison. Like I have the 101 and the 102 in this one league, and I have Kyler Murray, Anthony Richardson, and Deshaun Watson. So I get to take both. I get to take Marvin, and I get to take Caleb. But I'm still taking Caleb. I don't care that I have Watson. Like I can move back if I need to. I mean, I'll explore that later on. But if I'm just going to make those picks, like I'm still taking the quarterback. It's a
Feel
start
that.
10, but 12 team.
Yeah, there's a lot of options there for Ryan, and I think the fact that he has three starting quarterbacks essentially, we don't know what Russ's situation is, but you have three starting quarterbacks. Plus, if you take Caleb, you got four of those things. Man, the tax you could charge when the season starts is going to be insane.
Yeah, I'm not confident in 3-4 years. I am not.
I would
don't
say the
know.
next two for us.
It's possible, but every time we try and bet on some of these older quarterbacks, like shit fucking hits the fan.
But Russ
I mean,
isn't 40, like he's 34. He doesn't have any, major injury issues. Like I'm not
no.
35, but like we
I
see
don't know.
this now where quarterbacks are playing like 34, 35 is not crazy old for a quarterback. It's on the back nine for sure, obviously, but I could see Russ playing 3 or 4 more years. Do I feel confident? No. Do I feel confident over the next 2 years? Yeah. Do I feel confident that if he goes to Atlanta and plays well, I can trade him and get solid value? Sure.
And you can make the argument that you're safe with him at least as your QB3 for the next year or
Mm-hmm.
two and say, okay, you know
Mm-hmm.
what, that's going to justify me to take, Marvin Harrison, right? Depending on, what the rest of your squad looks like. So yeah, you could for sure make the argument. Yeah. So you said 10 team. So he's got Lamb, Amon-Ra, and Olave already. So it's 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes. He's got Ayuk and Higgins already. Yeah, I mean, notable bench: Russ, Kittle, Ferguson, Pollard, Ramondre. It's actually pretty sick. Dak, Lamb, and then Golf, Amon-Ra. You got Olave. Yeah, 10 team. I mean, I'm okay with living with that. I could justify taking Marvin,
Man, that's insane
especially
assets
with
right there.
with a team like that. Or you could just say, "Hey, I'm pretty comfortable and I'm set at my wide receivers and flexes, and I'm just gonna take the quarterback and just to have to have the young quarterback." I can
Yeah.
see that too. So
And I think I'll be honest with you. I think the quarterback, especially if you take the Caleb, I think that's going to be very valuable for you down the road because that asset as a quarterback in these super flex leagues, I understand it's only 10 teams, so it's not a 12 or a 14, but even still, man, like you'll have options. Quarterbacks get hurt. We've seen it this year where people are dying for quarterbacks. Um, so I think Caleb will net you good value. And then listen, you could trade a Jared Goff and roll with Dak and Caleb if you wanted. So there's a ton of options there.
I mean, can I just go try and get JJ or Chase? Like, can I do that and combine something I got on my bench here? Pollard, Ramondre, Ferguson, Kittle. Can I combine something there to go and get me a JJ or a Chase? I'd love to do
Fuck
that
it.
too. So
I'd trade Ayuk or Higgins, package that in there as well.
just sell Ayuk and Higgins for Brees and then take Marvin. Sell the 101 for the 102 plus and take Marvin. Yeah, you could do that. Could do that. All right, so my next sell high player. My next sell high. Oh, hold on. Let me pull up receiver rankings here. All right. So my next sell high player is going to be, because I don't think he's ever going to get higher than what he is right now. He is going to be on this squad for one more season, as they picked up. Shit, did they pick up the option?
I think I know who this might be.
Damn, I left my paper somewhere. I had it written down. Hold up.
So I got to take it down. Like, have your notes like me.
Yeah, they
bro.
picked up the option. So he's got 2024 and 2025 is going to be a free agent. Okay,
Okay.
this guy right now on keep trade cut, which again, I don't think he's going to go any higher than what he is now. He's wide receiver 10, which is Brandon Ayuk of the 49ers. Okay.
Ooh, I thought you were going somewhere else. Okay.
Well, I love Brandon Ayuk as a player. He was a guy that I was high on. I mean, even last year before he kind of broke out. So he was a guy that I did like. But now we're talking about wide receiver 10 on, a team that does spread the ball around. It could be a little inconsistent. He did go crazy, this year, 1,300 yards. I don't think he didn't have double-digit tutties, or is he?
Is that Ayuk?
Bad. I wasn't prepared for this.
I got you.
All right, so 1,342 yards, 7 tutties on 75 catches, only 105 targets. 105 targets. Now that's some crazy efficiency, right? But damn, I don't know. And he would finish as wide receiver 14. Like, I feel like I don't know how much higher he can go in that offense with all those different weapons, right? How much better can he actually finish? So,
I like it.
for me, wide receiver 15 finished last year, wide receiver 14 finished this year. I don't know how much higher that's going to get. So if I can take advantage while he's a top 10 dynasty wide receiver right now, I'm going to move off him. I mean, if you just look at some of the guys, let's see who's around. Where's he at? Who's around him right now? So who's around Brandon Ayuk? You tell me who you'd rather have, maybe. If I'm looking at Brandon Ayuk here. Chris Olave.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill.
Ooh. That's close. That's interesting. I think I'd take Hill just because he has that way. He's a game breaker. So I think I'd rather have Hill.
How about Tua? Dak, right? Those are quarterbacks, obviously. Would you still take the quarterback there, or are you taking Brandon Ayuk?
Yeah, I mean, it's a quarterback, man.
Taking the quarterback, right? How about Nico Collins is wide receiver 11 right now? Would you rather have Nico than Ayuk?
Playing with CJ Stroud? I think so.
Yes, of course. Yeah, hell yeah, I'd rather have Nico. Shit, we just saw Nico. Where is
Go
he?
nuts. He went
Yeah, I
nuts.
mean, he had what 1,300 yards on the season. Yep, 1,297 for 8 tutties, and he played 15 games.
And you got to think CJ Stroud is going to take another step next year, so that could be 1,510 touchdowns.
About Jalen Waddle, would you rather have Waddle or Ayuk?
I'd rather have Waddle, but I think it starts to get interesting there.
Devonta Smith.
That's
Now I'm going
interesting
down.
too.
Devonta Smith, DJ Moore. I mean, those are conversations, right? But if Ayuk is going to be, valued higher, can I get a second on top of one of those guys? Right? Can I get Devonta Smith in a second? DJ Moore maybe in a second? Addison, Pittman, Tank Dell, Drake London.
That's your guy. You love you some Drake London.
That is my guy. JSN, DK. I mean, could I get a first?
Yeah, people, and the thing with that San Francisco offense is, as you said, they're all capped virtually except for Christian McCaffrey. Like, that's the only guy, because of there's so many guys there. You still got Kittle there being productive at the tight end spot, Debo, Ayuk, CMC. They still work in some of these third and fourth receivers every now and again. So this does feel like a ceiling type. Like, he's probably, that's the ceiling, right? 14, right on the fringe, like the high end wide receiver too.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So I think for him to stay at wide receiver 10, like he's probably has to produce and have to be finished as a top 10 wide receiver. Like if he's finishing 14, 15, like I don't know. Does he do that again? I think he could. And what happens after that? Do they re-sign him? Now does he stay in San Fran? Does he go somewhere else? So there's questions about that as well. But if you need to pick up assets or if you need to go after a quarterback, right? Can you use Brandon Ayuk to go get, like I just said, in that range was what? Dak Prescott, Tua, Purdy, right? Do I need to go get a QB? So if he's getting you in the QB conversation, I mean, that's just a little too much for me. Let me move off. Let me pick up some value somewhere else so I don't lose that value. Because we see it all the time. We see all of these guys fluctuate, right? It all has to do with, their quarterback situation, whether they're producing right now. I mean, we've seen Tank Dell be as high as like wide receiver 10. Now he's like 18.
That was
We've
mainly
seen
because of
DJ
injury.
Moore. We've seen DJ Moore fluctuate up and down from the 10 to 25 range, right? Nico Collins. And this is all like recent. Michael Pittman, Drake London, JSN, DK, T. Higgins at wide receiver 23. I mean, there's some good wide receivers all the way down here. And there's not crazy much difference between them and the wide receivers at 10, 11, 12, 13. What, Jaden Reed at wide receiver 24 over here. But yeah, can I move off of Ayuk if he's being valued as a top 10 wide receiver? If I can get that kind of price, move off to a QB, down tier on wide receiver, pick up some picks if you need to. Or can you tier up? I mean, can I get Chris Olave? Can I give you third? You know what I mean? Like you might not have to give up much to go from Ayuk to Olave.
I feel like that's
can I
the route I would go.
Right? Can I get into the Garrett Wilson range? I mean, I want to say Puka, I want to say St. Brown, but those guys have just been insane, and they're getting into a tier where it's going to be very, very hard to get those guys. You're going to have to give up a lot. So that's rough. But if I can move off to one of those guys in that range or tier down a little bit, I'm all for that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. And we talked about Ayuk. Especially last year, he kind of finally had that breakout year we were hoping for. And he's been really good with Brock Purdy. But like you said, in that offense with so many guys, like there comes a point where there is a ceiling. And I do think that the value for Ayuk is probably not going to be as high as it is right now.
Yeah. So that was what? That was 4, that was 2 each?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty much giving you 4 today. I mean, I've got a bonus one.
I do as well.
Could be 2 little bonus ones. We won't go as much into detail with those guys, but we'll give those out in a second here. Let me get to some of the questions in the chat real quick. Tight ends are Hawk and Mayer. Is it time to perhaps draft Bowers? I have the 5th pick. I mean, you got Hawkinson.
Yeah,
There's not a reason to,
I
unless
wouldn't
he's,
do that.
absolutely the best guy there. Is a tight end premium? Are people going to value Bowers? Like, can you move off of him for something else? Can you trade the pick on the clock? Like, you got a ton of options, but I wouldn't say I would want him if you got Hawk and Mayer, right?
I
Are you going to
completely
draft
agree.
him?
No, I'm
Yeah,
gonna either try and trade that pick and get maybe a little tax on it if we know Bowers is absolutely a lock for that 5th spot, I'm taxing that 105 if
yeah,
that
for
person really
sure.
wants Bowers.
Gonna try Higgins, Ramondre, and the 101 for JJ. Yeah, fuck it. Send
Going
Higgins
for
in the
the
101
gusto.
first. Or you
Yeah,
know what?
start small.
No, fuck it. If we're going after
Blow 'em away.
JJ, like we got to make it enticing. We want him just click. We don't even want him to think about it. We want to just some click.
Mhm.
Like fuck it. Just send Higgins, Ramondre, and 101.
Go for the gusto. I love it.
Um, but no, honestly, I probably send it without Ramondre. Because do I want to give up Higgins and Marvin Harrison to go get JJ? What was the starters in this one? I can't remember.
I know it was 10 team. I don't know if he gave
Oh
us the
yeah, it was
exact.
10 team, right? It was 10 teams. So yeah, you might have to do that. I'm okay with that. You got to pay a little bit extra. That's fine. Because that's a 10 team. That's right. Would you trade ETN for Tank Dell? Yeah, give me the wide receiver.
It's always a good idea to come off the running backs.
Give me the wide receiver. Next episode going to be buy or sells, like J-Mo Burks Young, guys that suck but can't dip in value because they so low. We don't want to fall into the Chase Claypool
So
trap.
buy low.
We could do
Buy
buy
low. I
lowish.
like that. I
Yeah,
like
we
that.
could do buy lowish, guys.
I
Yeah,
feel
for
like there's
sure.
always a lot more intrigue with the buy low guys because you're like those under the radars, get them before they really cost a lot. But also too, like, but it's not quite a stash because these guys are had, on their roster. So they're not quite those stash guys. They're more the buy low. So I actually do like that.
Which wide receivers are you moving off of before they lose value? Which wide receivers you buying low that could gain value?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that could go into one of the bonus ones that I was going to say, which was going to be George Pickens again for the second year in a row. I've got him as a guy that I want to sell. I've also got Rashee Rice as a guy that I want to sell. Like, I think they're going
An
to add
interesting one.
somebody. There's no way that in the offseason they don't add something to that wide receiver room, which is going to affect Rashee Rice. Now, he's going to still be a productive guy, but I don't necessarily think he's an actual, like, real number one guy that they want to have there. Like, I think they bring in somebody big for that offense for Patrick Mahomes. Like, they definitely need some more weapons. But do you have any other ones or a bonus one you want to say?
Yeah, I do. It's actually probably going to be a little controversial. You already saw my notes, so you know exactly who this guy is. He's actually on my team, one of my teams. That is Tyreek Hill. And the interesting thing with Tyreek Hill is he's going into his age 30 season, which it doesn't even feel real because I feel like he was just 24 years old catching bombs from Patrick Mahomes. But he's still a true wide receiver one, which means he can get you great value in return, right? Like, can you tier down to, to something plus? Can you tier down to, I don't know. We talked about those guys right outside of the top 5 and go get that plus potentially a first round pick, right? If a team if there's a contender out there or anybody really, you could probably get, a receiver plus, a really good receiver plus, right? Can you get Garrett Wilson in a first for Tyreek Hill at this point? So, and also too, remember, and I think we all kind of forgot about this, like Tyreek Hill said he was only going to play out the rest of this contract with Miami. And after this, now that the season's over, that means 2 more seasons. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I think people still tend to forget about that. And then, bro, his usage the last 2 seasons has been absolutely insane. Over the last 2 seasons, he has 340 targets, 238 catches, and 3,500 yards in the last 2 seasons. So his usage has been crazy, and he's been getting banged up a little bit, right? Towards the end, he was banged up a little bit at the end of the season, and there's been a little bit of those injury concerns with him. Not crazy, but it starts to creep up. And as you said, especially for wide receivers, once they hit that age 30 season, things start breaking down when they normally didn't. So Tyreek Hill, and the reason why I say that is because he could net you a big haul, and he could kind of help you reload your team as opposed to letting him die on your team. And then, you kind of go in the tank a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he is wide receiver 9 right now. I don't think you're getting Garrett Wilson with a plus. I mean, maybe straight up if somebody really wants to win right now, but being that Aaron Rodgers is coming back, like, I think Garrett Wilson is back on
Okay.
top of that chain like he was last year. Like, it's gonna be, it might be hard, but can you get a AJ Brown? Can you get a Chris Olave? Can you get any one of those guys with maybe a plus on top? I think that could be possible. But going back to Jamie's point, I mean, Nico Collins is wide receiver 11 right now, and I think it's justified, to be honest. I don't actually have a problem with it. Like, I have him over Nico. I mean, I have him over Tank Dell, and we've been had him over Tank Dell. It's something we talked about a couple weeks ago, actually. But I know that could be a conversation. Like, yeah, Dell was getting some work as well, but
I
I
think
think
Dell's the
Nico
more
is gonna
boomer
be the
bust
main.
guy.
Huh?
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
Nico's
Dell
gonna
is
be
the
that
more
high
boomer bust
upside guy
guy.
that you want. Yeah, I think Nico will be the high upside guy that you want there. So, like, I mean, you could say still that's a little bit high, but like I said, any of these guys from, like, wide receiver 10 down to, like, even 24, 25, 26, like, they're all relatively very, very similar as far as, the points to production that's gonna come. So, can you take advantage in your particular league and move up and down in the tiers? Pick up
Mhm.
assets if you need to, like, take advantage of, those times and those pockets in the market like we always talk about. So, I'll say that. You got anything you wanna add to that?
No, I just, like I said, I have Tyreek Hill as well. Had a ton of people make me offers for Tyreek Hill. I feel like I have a win now team going into next season, but I'd consider offering. I mean, I do have a lobby on that team as well. But I just think getting to that age 30 season is always the flip of a coin when you're talking about these wide receivers, especially a wide receiver that is as fast and as electric as Tyreek Hill. I don't want to see a hamstring go and then his value shot.
Bowers go 107. Yeah, he's gonna go pretty early. You can make the argument for him sooner, depending what kind of tight end premium that it is, or where he goes also of that matter too. I'm needing a back. Can you think of any that may be undervalued right now? I mean, at running back, I don't think you need to do that right now. I think you should wait till the draft comes. Wait till, the training camp is here, preseason is here, where things are a little bit more clear. Like, I think you have time to go and do that. I mean, I don't like buying running backs in the offseason unless you're buying, one of these top, Bijan, Brees, Gibbs, where they're relatively a lot more safe than some of these other running backs. But we talked about a few weeks ago, right? I mean, even today we talked about Chase Brown, right? Spears. I mean, these are guys that you might want to try and get now. They're going to be a little bit cheaper than they might be next season, but they're still going to cost you about a second round pick. So if you've got a few of those lying around and you want to buy some of those, I mean, those would be a couple guys that I'd be looking to try and go get.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think there's always a risk with buying a running back kind of in the off season, where like, especially before the draft, right? We saw, and I keep referencing this when we did our startup subscriber league draft. Kenneth Walker, after they drafted Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker's value dipped. Now he became a value, but there are values to be had. So I definitely agree. I would wait for the draft to happen. And then, like you said, watch training camp play out, all that different stuff. Free agency as well is another thing to consider. So I would kind of let that all shake loose and then fill in the holes thereafter.
And this is why we say that, stack up on the wide receivers, stack up on just the actual value. So now when the season comes, now you can go out and get that running back that you need, right? Because you have that value, right? In the wide receiver. So Jamie said he's got Tyreek at 10, Nico at 21. He's got Dell at 17. Okay, so you've got Dell ahead. I mean, I'm okay with that. Grab Henry on the low prior to his move to Dallas. Yeah, I
It's an
mean, listen,
interesting one.
depending what you want to pay, though, the problem is the people that have Derrick Henry is like they're not even trying to give him up for cheap. So, what can you actually get him for? So if you can get him for cheap, then yeah, I mean, but again, he's a guy that you can probably wait till the season anyway. As he's an older guy, he's probably getting what, a 1-year deal. I mean, yeah, first week of the season, Jamie said. Tajay Spears undervalued. Rashard White is a guy that you could sell as
It's a good
well.
one.
Rashard White is another good one. I mean, we could have made a huge list, but yeah, Rashard White is one where I never believed in Rashard White as a 3-down guy. He got the work this year by situation, no competition in the backfield, right? He's always going to have a role, but he's, again, one of those more RB2-ish kind of guys where, like, if he's going to be valued in the top 10, then let me move off of that and pick up something else where I need it, transfer over that value, because I do think they could bring somebody in. There's a chance he does the same thing again next year, though, as well, with these running backs that are not that good coming out or not as highly anticipated. I mean, there's going to be some free agent running backs as well, right? So things can change. They could bring another guy in there. I still don't love him between the tackles, but he's a great receiving back, so I think he'll always have a role. So I think he's a relatively safe back to have, but he's valued very particularly high by some people. But yeah, wait till the draft before we start buying some RBs. Kyron being bought at top 7 running back, Rams drafted RB second or third round. That drops Kyron value. Yeah, I mean, of course.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Henry for a second and a fifth. That's fine. I'm okay with that. No one is valuing Connor, Zeke, Fournette, etc. These can be forgotten. These can be gotten for a third rookie drafts when you're on the clock. Yes, absolutely. That's why you wait, right? That's why you stack up these picks to begin with, and then you wait till you're on the clock, right? When you've got a bunch of thirds and fourths, maybe we should make an episode on what to do with like the thirds and fourths and shit. Like I've got one league where I've got like a shit ton of thirds and fourths. I've got like 5 thirds and 4 fourths. And like, what the fuck am I gonna do with these, right? Maybe we can have an episode on what to do with those, because those are more things like I'm moving on the clock really for those at that point, just to kind of throw it short in there, where we can have a bigger episode to talk about it. But on the clock, I'm trying to move those, whether I'm trying to move up in the draft, whether I'm trying to move that pick to next year, right? Can I move a third this year for a second next year? Or worst comes to worst, a third next year. So now I can use that pick next year on my championship run where, or even if it's not, you can just kind of keep recycling it to the next year until you're absolutely going to need it. So, there is things that you can do even with the thirds and fourth round picks. They're not necessarily just tied to a player that you have to make that pick. It's just it's a piece of currency that you can use, right? Would you rather move Higgins or Dell? My bad, Ryan. Or too many unknowns at the moment. Either or. If I'm getting JJ, I don't care.
I totally agree. If that's
they're close enough where, yeah, just give me whatever. Roshan, yeah. Roshan as well. We can do it by position. We can do a couple different ways that we're going to do it. But, another little bonus one that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I know you're not going to like it because he's your boy, but one kind of bonus one, which is more of a kind of a tier down, but Sam Laporta. the tight end 1 right now in Dynasty, right? Can I move off to one of these injured guys like an Andrews or a Hawkinson and pick up a pick or an asset on top of that?
I'm not crazy about that.
Why are you not crazy about that?
I understand the premise behind it, and I'm not going to completely shut it off. But Sam Laporta is my guy. He's been my guy since the beginning of the draft. Once I knew he was going to Detroit. But yeah, I understand the logic behind it. I'm not opposed to it. It would have to be something that really does kind of blow me away, because I think Sam Laporta is kind of going to be the. I don't want to say he's going to be the next Kelsey, but he has an opportunity to kind of dominate that tight end position for a long time. And I think if you have him, you kind of don't. It's kind of like Kelsey, where you don't have to worry about it.
Well, let me put it this way, right? Hawkinson and Andrews obviously injured, but they're, they were pretty much the 1, 2, 3, right? The top tight end guys, right? Sam Laporta finished this season 86 catches, 889 yards, 10 tutties, right? On
He's a beast.
120 targets. Is that a ceiling, or are we going to see a possible Kelsey type? I mean, I don't know if that's possible with Amon-Ra there, right? So if Sam Laporta, I'm looking at FF today, but give or take 235 fantasy points for Sam Laporta compared to, right, Hawkinson, who was injured, missed games, right, 221, right? Evan Ingram, 234, right? I mean, Joku was 205. Obviously, Andrews was hurt. So, my thing is, if you're going to get relatively the same production, and it's not going to be much of a difference, right? Because Hawkinson averaged more points per game than Sam Laporta.
Okay.
Kelsey actually did as well. Evan Ingram was actually tied. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about not even a point difference where, that I can pick up an asset on top of second round pick or some kind of player and move off of Laporta to get the tight end 2 or tight end 3 in Hawkinson or Andrews, right? And I get the other point too, saying, all right, if I have Sam Laporta, I never have to worry again. I can just kind of keep him and hold him. But what if I can just have something else in my pocket that's going to give me the same exact thing? Yeah, I don't think you're going to lose the championship or win the championship if you have, Sam Laporta compared to Hawkinson or, a Mark Andrews. Like, I don't think that's going to win or lose you the ship. So in that sense, like, give me the extra asset that I can get on top of it, whatever that may be, so that I can use. And what if I get a second on top and I can use that to buy fucking Mike Evans?
No, listen, I never said I was completely opposed to it or just shutting down the idea. But it would have to be something. Does Sam Laporta have a ceiling in his rookie season like that? Do you think he can get better?
I mean, I think as a player, yeah, but when we're talking about the production, with a guy like Amon-Ra on that team, like, I mean, listen, 120 targets, 86 catches, 889 yards, like 10 tutties. I mean, shit, how much better can he actually do? I mean, I think that could be like that could be what he does. That could be his normal. I mean, but it's not, I don't know if it's going to be that Travis Kelce fucking 1,300-yard double-digit tutty seasons. Like, I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's going to be that crazy.
That's fair. Like I said, I'm not going to shut it down, but I would have to be really. I don't want to say blown away per se, because it's a tight end, but I would have to really like the package I was getting, like if you said. And even with Hawkinson, like I know, especially with the quarterback, the questions at quarterback going into the next season with the Vikings, like that doesn't make me feel 100% secure. I know Hawkinson's really good regardless, but
yeah, I do think Kirk winds up coming back on the cheaper deal, but for sure, it's just that was more of a sell high to still replace with a high player, but just pick up an asset.
That's kind of where I was. So that's kind of the same mold I had with like Tyreek Hill. Like, yeah, this guy's wide receiver 1, but if you can get multiple assets or kind of reload, in that sense, I love me some Sam Laporta. It's going to take a nice haul.
So if you're telling me I can get Hawkinson or Andrews in a second on top of that and turn that into Mike Evans or at fucking Stephon Diggs. I mean, now we're rolling, right? This is, it's not just one trade. Like we're trying to put something together to, to kind of put up a run. So, it's just something that I'm saying that I would definitely try and explore. I'd be okay with, and I know that a lot of people won't be, and that's absolutely fine. But it's just kind of an idea where you can
interesting.
possibly pick up an asset. And you guys, let me know out there. Would you do something like that? Is that something that you'd try and do to pick up that extra asset to give you that kind of that leverage or that extra piece that you can use? They give you a left nut to get
Oh,
JJ if you
yes, he
have
would.
to.
He would absolutely do that. He'd do it twice. He'd give up both of them if he could.
Kincaid because he's more or a Kincaid. I'm okay with the Kincaid too. If you want to tear down to a Kincaid and pick up even more, can I get a fucking first on top of Kincaid?
Can make
I
that
don't know where
argument.
people are going to have him. Can I get Kyle Pitts in a first? Like now we're really talking about, strategy. And of course, guys, it's going to depend on your format, right? How many teams is it? Is it super flex or not? How many starters? Like all that stuff is going to matter in these kind of moves that you want to make because there's certain formats in situations where you're just not going to move off of Laporta for nothing. You know what I mean? One QB league will be different, right? Any kind of shallower league would be different. A 10-team league could be different as well, where that second just that just doesn't do me much. I can't buy Mike Evans for the second in this particular league. You know what I mean? So all that stuff obviously would come into consideration as well. But yeah, can I get Kyle Pitts in the first? Can I get a late first and Kyle Pitts for Sam Laporta?
Kyle Pitts. You and this Kyle Pitts business.
I'm still on the Kyle Pitts train. Yeah, Bagala's trying to steal him from me, but it's not happening. He's just a guy like I'm okay. I'm okay with keeping and holding on to. Like, there's no point to come off of him because the value's not there. Like, I'm not going to get the value for him. Fuck it. I'll just hold on to him at that point. Next pick after the 101 isn't until the third. Way too early, but eyeing up Blake Corum in the third round of your draft. Yeah, I mean it's very early. We don't know where these guys are going to land, but you don't have to pick a guy either. I mean, you could trade it too. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. McBride is another one as well, right? Yep. Can I
We
get
talk
McBride
about
instead?
these tight end rankings are going to be really interesting because there's some really, really good young tight ends that we have coming up.
Ryan, that's funny. He fell in rookie drafts because he was listed as Nathaniel Dell.
That sounds a lot different than Tank, and he's like 5'9".
Well, listen, a lot. We see that a lot. I mean, there's a bunch of guys' names that it's like it's not even close to their real name. Like, what's AJ Brown's real name?
No idea. Sauce Gardner.
Hold on. AJ Brown's real name. Come on, give me the fucking real name here. Arthur Juan Brown.
I think I like AJ a little bit better.
And
I
I'm
don't know how
not
you
trying to
feel
make
about
fun of it, but you would never think that this man, AJ Brown's name was Arthur Juan.
That's a weird combination. Like Anthony John sounds okay. Arthur Juan. Artie.
Oh my god. That is funny. How about T. Higgins? What's his real name?
No idea.
Maurice.
Mm.
You could go. I mean, that stretches to the NBA as well. Like, there's a ton of guys that just. What's Debo's real name?
We should just do a whole show on this.
Aishun Raekwon.
But Debo sounds more. It's like guys have stage names now when they play sports. They don't even use their real name anymore. They just use their stage name.
Will said McBride in the first for Laporta Potty. I do in a millisecond. You mean you take McBride in the first?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I'm with you. I'm with you. Like, give me the asset. Like, listen, I like Laporta. Nothing against Laporta. He fucking killed it, and he's tight end 1 right now. I don't know if there's much argument for him not being tight end 1 as of right now with with injuries and all this other shit. So we'll still have Pitts as a top 3 to 5 tight end. Pitts is going to be better than Joku in 3 years. Yeah,
Well, their situation's going to change in Atlanta, so that should be really interesting to see how that shakes out. The quarterback and head coach.
Sauce is Ahmad.
That's not that bad.
No,
that's not Tamaris or Arthur Juan.
Listen, you speaking of Joku, you could argue that he's also a good kind of sell high right now.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Joku would be an awesome, another kind of bonus one. But yeah, Joku is a guy that you can sell high right now. I mean, going crazy right now with Flacco, right? What happens with Watson comes back next year? I mean, we don't know. So yeah, Joku could be another one. But other than that, I mean, that pretty much wraps it up. If y'all got any questions, throw them out there. Any last questions before we get out of here? Fuck, I forgot to send Bogey the damn link. But yeah. I think Jamie's putting some names out here.
Yeah, I saw that.
Michael McCorkle, Jones, John Sherman, Smith-Schuster, Cedarian DeLeon. Yeah, I remember looking that up one day too. CD. Eugene Hilton, Tormes Higgins, DeKalin, right? DK Metcalf, that's another one. Yep. Juan Brown. Arthur Juan, bro. That's damn fucking Jamie's going off over here.
He is going off. The 201 is interesting.
Oh God.
Jesus. Look at Tua's name.
Dominique Raheem Mostert.
Coleridge, Bernard, Stroud. How does CJ go from Coleridge, Bernard?
Damn. Will, appreciate you. Night shooting the shit with you guys again. Appreciate you, Will. We'll be back next Tuesday as well, so make sure you guys come through. See what we wind up cooking up for next week. But yeah, appreciate everybody out there. Make sure you smash that like for us. Smash that subscribe if you're new. And other than that, I mean, shit, we about to get up out of here. Oh my God, this guy. I might have to root for the Pack just because I want San Fran to lose.
This is what we're gonna do now. This is what we're doing.
No, it's not. All right, guys, we out of here. I can't take this shit anymore.
You ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Show me the money.
Oh, you didn't know?
Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling. Every day I'm hustling.
Put my shoes on, you wouldn't last a mile.
Summertime, wintertime, I'm on the grind. Yeah, I got the ring, I'm the champ, I'm the genie of the lamp. This is the gift I was given, so I just live by my hustle.
Yeah, I keep it in my pocket, it don't make sense, but don't make a profit.